This first episode of the Eras Tour docuseries doesn't start with fireworks or sold-out stadiums. It starts quietly, with reflection. Taylor opens by explaining that the Eras Tour was never meant to be just another concert. It was designed as a living archive, a way to honor every version of herself that survived, evolved, and stayed standing long enough to tell the story. She describes building the tour like a 3-hour memory palace. This first episode of the Eras Tour docuseries doesn't start with fireworks or sold-out stadiums. It starts quietly, with reflection. Taylor opens by explaining that the Eras Tour was never meant to be just another concert. It was designed as a living archive, a way to honor every version of herself that survived, evolved, and stayed standing long enough to tell the story. She describes building the tour like a 3-hour memory palace. Every era mapped intentionally, every transition timed to emotion, not just spectacle. From choreography to costumes, from set lists to visuals, nothing was accidental. This tour wasn't about chasing hits. It was about honoring the journey. But as she explains, even the most carefully planned dream can be shaken. Taylor then addresses one of the darkest moments of the tour, the security threat that led to the cancellation of her Vienna shows. She describes the devastation of realizing that something meant to bring joy had become unsafe, the shock, the fear, and the crushing disappointment for her crew, and especially for the fans who had been waiting for those nights. She admits that after finding out, her sense of safety was rattled in a way she hadn't felt before. In those moments, she says, she leaned heavily on the people closest to her. Taylor talks about long phone calls with Travis Kelce, her partner, describing how grounding those conversations were. Not about the tour, not about headlines, but about reassurance. About being reminded that she's human first, performer second. The episode then shifts to London. Despite the excitement of playing one of the biggest shows of the tour, Taylor admits she was deeply nervous stepping on stage. The weight of Vienna followed her. She questioned whether she could emotionally deliver a show of that magnitude so soon after everything happened. During rehearsals, she shares a moment with Ed Sheeran, a friend who's been part of her musical life for years. She describes feeling unusually anxious rehearsing with him, second-guessing herself, feeling the pressure of needing to be okay when she wasn't. And then comes one of the most emotional moments of the episode. Taylor recounts meeting families who had been affected by acts of violence and loss, and how overwhelming that experience was. She describes breaking down backstage afterward, crying not as a global superstar, but as a person confronted with the fragility of life and the weight of connection. She says that moment reframed everything. The tour stopped being about perfection. It became about presence. She explains that walking on stage that night in London wasn't about being fearless. It was about choosing to keep going despite fear. About honoring the audience, the crew, and the lives touched by both joy and tragedy. The episode ends the same way it began, quietly. Taylor reflects on how the Eras Tour isn't just a celebration of her past.